Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to explain some concepts and terminologies in English grammar, including sentence structure, sentence elements, direct and indirect object, subject-object complement, and range of operators. Sentence structure. A sentence is a group of words expressing complete thought. It includes a subject and a predicate. So the sentence has two main components, the subject and the predicate. The subject is the major constituent of the sentence and usually associated with the doer of the action or the experiencer of an event. It's a nominal that can be represented by a noun, pronoun, phrase, or a clause. And subject refers to or tells who or what the sentence is about. For example, the boy, in a sentence like the boy ate his food, the boy is the subject, it is the doer of the action. While the predicate is all the sentence elements following the subject, and it tells what the subject is doing or who the subject is. For example, ate his food, in the sentence the boy ate his food, is the predicate. It's everything following the subject. So we think of the sentence, or an English sentence, as containers of elements. We have the subject and the verb as the minimal set of elements within the sentence, and we can have complement and an object. Each element is a slot that can be represented by many linguistic forms. So here we need to distinguish between the form and function within English sentence. For example, the subject is a function, and this function can be represented or linguistically represented by many forms. For example, a subject could be a pronoun, it could be a noun, a phrase, or a clause. The verb is only a function. It could be linguistically represented by only the form of verb. Complements and objects too are functions. They can be linguistically represented by pronouns, nouns, clauses, and phrases. So we think of these elements as functions that can be linguistically represented by forms. However, for verbs, only the form of verb can represent the function of verb. While for the subject and complement, including the objects, we don't have a one-to-one relationship. It means that the function could be represented by many linguistic forms. So if we see this sentence, the subject as a function, it can be represented by many linguistic forms. So a subject here as a function can be in the form of a pronoun, like he is a student. It can be in the form of a proper noun, like Tom is a student. It can be in the form of a clause, like what I see is a student. Or even a phrase like interesting guy is a student. A simple sentence like the boy ate his food can be classified into the boy, which is a subject, ate, a verb, and his food, an object. Another sentence like he's a student can be he as a subject, is a verb, a student, a subject, complement. These are simple sentences. The question is when we come to analyze a complex sentence like what I see is what I mean. In this sentence, we need to recognize the main verb of the sentence so we can decide where is the subject and what is the object or the subject complement. In this sentence, we have three verbs. We have say, is, and mean. And you can see here that say is the main verb of the relative clause, what I say. And mean here is also the main verb of the relative clause, what I mean. So is the main verb of the sentence. And what I say is the subject. Is the verb. And what I mean is the subject complement. And here we need to ask another question. How could we know that what I mean is a subject complement and it's not an object? So we have two criteria to distinguish between subject complements and objects. Subject complements describe the subject. So any subject complement, it describes the subject. For example, he's smart. Smart here is a subject complement. It's not an object because it describes the subject. If we say what is he, we can say he is smart. So smart describes he. In this way, it is a subject complement. 2, it follows a stative verb. In this sentence, for example, she seems happy. Happy here is a subject complement, and it's not an object. Not because it only describes she, but because it's preceded by a stative verb, seem, not an action verb. And then we have the direct and indirect objects. Objects usually follow an action verb. For example, he found his ring. His ring here is an object. It's not a subject complement because it does not describe he, and it is preceded by an action verb, the verb of finding. So find is an action verb. His ring could be or should be an object. 2 objects add info to or about the action. For example, Anne did her homework. Her homework here is an object. It's an object not only because it's preceded by an action verb did, but because it adds something or some info to the action of doing. So what was she doing? Her homework. Her homework is the object of the sentence. An object also can be direct and indirect. Some English verbs can have 2 objects, like the verb give. In this sentence, I gave him a letter. We have 2 objects. We have him and a letter. Him is an indirect object and letter is a direct object. The question is, how could we distinguish between direct and indirect objects? Simply, the direct object is the one that is directly affected by the action of the verb. So what did he give? We can say he gave a letter. So the letter is directly affected by the action of giving, while him is an indirect object. Simply, sometimes they say that the indirect object precedes the direct object. This is not always the case, because we can say I gave a letter to him. In this way, we cannot say that a letter is an indirect object and him is a direct object, because it's following the indirect object. So we need to see which one of the noun phrases that's directly affected by the action of the verb. 4 objects are to be distinguished from object complements. So we can see that the sentence, we made him the chairman. Him here is an object because it's directly affected by the verb, while the chairman is not another object because it has nothing to do with the action of making, but the chairman describes the object. It does not describe the subject. So what is he? He is a chairman, so the chairman describes the object. In this way, the chairman is an object complement. Here we have some sentences from, Inverse Grammar of English. You can see that John is a subject, carefully is an adverbial, and searched is the main verb of the sentence. The room is an object because it's preceded by an action verb, the verb of searching. The girl is a subject, is a verb. Now, an adverbial. A student is a subject complement. It's not an object because it's preceded by a stative verb, 1. 2, because it describes the subject, the girl. Now we move to range of operators. Some sentences that can have more than one auxiliary verb, like he would have been visiting his uncle. In this sentence, we have 3 auxiliary verbs, would, have, and been. The first auxiliary verb is the operator. The question is, what do we mean by operator? The operator is the auxiliary verb by which we can negate the sentence, we can question, and we can change the tense. So if we want to negate the sentence, he would have been visiting his uncle, we can say he would not or he wouldn't have been visiting his uncle. So would is the operator. If we want to make the sentence a question, we say, would he have been visiting his uncle? And we use the auxiliary verb would as an operator of the sentence. And we can change the tense of the sentence by using would to. For example, he will have been visiting his uncle. So the operator is the first auxiliary verb of the sentence by which we can negate the sentence, we can make it a question, and we can change the tense of the sentence. In some sentences, we don't have auxiliary verbs, like he works hard. So how could we negate the sentence or make it a question or even change the tense of the sentence? Simply we use does, do, and did, and this of course depends on the tense of the sentence. So if we want to negate the sentence he works hard, we say he does not work hard. If you want to make it a question, we say does he work hard? And if we want to change the tense of the sentence, we use the auxiliary verb did, and we say he did work hard. This is for now. Thank you very much, and please stay tuned for